2018 preliminary budget figures. So financial manager Patty Markell and myself, we met about a week and a half ago, I believe, and went over the current year budget in regards to what has been spent out of the different positions that are allotted every year for operational funding of this organization. And we adjusted some lines. Last year, we had an $18,000 administrative captain's position, which we took out, which allowed us to put that back into other areas of the budget. We had an adjustment in our FUDA, is that correct, or what line?
Yes.
So we had an adjustment in our FUDA, which was $6,000, and I'll go over that. That was removed as well. Patty can explain that a little bit further too. And then what were some of the other changes that we had in that? We added another line for a combination of the firefighter and stuff.
Yes, for the Medicare and Social Security.
Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll start going over the budget, and when we get to line items that have changed, I will let all of you know, and we'll explain those changes. Patty can add in or discuss anything at any time that she needs to make sure that we have full understanding of what's changed and why. And then it'll end up being at the bottom, which is the entire budget for operational purposes for 2018. So I apologize for having to move things around, but access the computer easily. So this budget is published online for the taxpayers' review. It has been, I think, since early 2011, 2012, maybe 2013. I don't remember exactly the year that we were able to put this budget online. But once it's confirmed by the commissioners, the budget is there for the public to review. So this meeting is to go over the 2018 year budget, discuss it, see if you guys have any questions. Obviously, there may be changes that take place between now and November 8th, which would be the meeting that this budget would be approved. So this is only for discussion purposes. There's no final decisions of the 2018 year budget being made tonight. Is everybody okay with that? Okay. So starting up above, from the county rolls that we currently have, and the numbers, I can't find that sheet. I'll have it up at the regular meeting on November 8th, so you can see where the numbers are coming from. But we start out with last year's levy. We're allowed to take a 1% increase. If you remember, last year was our final year of catching up on the reserve capacity, or the bank capacity is what they call it, with the county. And we finally caught up with all of our bank capacity, so from this point forwards, it's a very easy decision, and it's a 1% that's legally allowed for us to take as a taxing entity. So 1% on a $575,000 budget, it's about $5,000 plus around $6,000. So $5,000 to $6,000 is really the increase that we're able to take at this point. Just to make sure you guys understand what, put it in perspective, that $5,000 is what I have to pay Whidbey for our contract. So it's one item out of the budget that it covers. It's important to take that, otherwise that 1% or that $5,000 would have to come out of somewhere else in the budget. So tax levy previous year, and these are estimates. We do our best with the numbers that the county gives us and provides us. We do our best to mathematically calculate what it will be, but it may change slightly, and the change would be off of new construction.
Correct.
Would be off new construction, which they don't have good numbers on. They have an estimate, but it could be higher, it could be lower. We just don't know. So the final number at the county may be a little bit different. Okay, but we do this process has worked great for us for the years that we've been doing it. We've been very, very close. So the tax levy previous year estimate, 2017 budget was $566,000. We're projecting $575,000 this year for those numbers that come in from the county. We're looking at the hospital district, that has changed. We added in the percent change to that, so that's been calculated in. So whatever the percent change in their contract is, that's the difference here, so $380. So $14,780 is what we expect the hospital district's contract to be in 2018. Fire service contract fees, $300. Interest on investments, we just kept that the same. That's a low estimate usually, but it's a safe estimate to have in there. Burn permit sales, $2,500. That's always low, but I don't want to project a budget that's not fundamentally within means. Does that make sense? I don't want to put $10,000 and we only get 5, but we add that into stuff that I can spend operationally down here. So we project low on these, which if we go high, ambulance transports, again, we don't do anything on that line because there's no guarantee that we're going to get anything back from our ambulance transports. But I don't remember what we got in 2016 or 2017. It was close to $20,000, I believe, in ambulance transports. Those funds, therefore, those funds go directly into our capital reserves at the end of the year. That is not part of my operational budget. So just to make sure everybody understands that. That is pure capital reserve funds, any ambulance fees that we get back. So grant revenue we don't add in because it's never, it's always up in the air. If we get it, we still don't put it in, but we utilize that grant funds for whatever we put it in for. So we purchase that item. Legislative meetings, 4104, we kept that the same. Special meetings, $1,500. Whatcom Fire Commissioners Association, $1,000. FICA Medical Legislative Commissioner, so we pay the FICA on the commissioners $400, and I think we're pretty good there. Sorry. Anything in the yellow is a change. So we get down to the audit. So you want to explain the audit and what we've elected to do?
Oh, yes. Normally we get audited every 3 years. So we were audited the latter part of 2016 for 2013, 14, and 15. So 16, 17, and 18, normally we would get audited in 2019. But I was contacted a couple months ago by the auditor's office, and they are trying to get people on more of a cohesive schedule. So we are going to skip 1 year and do a 4-year audit the following year, and then we will be back on track with a 3-year audit. So it made no difference. She offered it, asked if we would be willing to do that, and I consulted with Chief, and he said that would be fine.
Yeah, because what it does is it just extends us out that we're still going to be audited, and then we get back to a 3-year. And the auditor approached us on this. We didn't, and they sent it out to the majority of agencies, if not all agencies that they audit. And we were one of those agencies that decided to help them and extend our audit 1 year. And then that saves us $9,500 for 2018. So that line item became 0. And we were able to put that back into other areas of the budget that I'm projecting we're going to need to spend on in 2018.
But Chief,
Yeah.
do you remember how much the audit was, money-wise, how much it cost us this past year?
This last time, it was less than what we thought. I think it came below.
By a little bit, I have to pull it up.
Yeah, it was below 10, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well then we're not,
I want to say around, it was 6,000 to 8,000, I'm going to say.
okay, well then we're not saving $9,500, we're just saving a third of that, or a quarter.
Well, this 9,500 would have to be spent in 2018.
Yeah.
So we had projected it. It was in the 2017 budget as well. So we've just been able to reposition it within the budget.
Would it make more sense since we know, okay, now it's 4 years, let's forget it's 4 years, it's still every 3 years, that you budget for $3,500 every year, that you come up to 10 grand, thereabouts.
Yeah.
Instead of doing it once, I mean, to me it's a little confusing. I mean, you don't budget your personnel 3 years in advance, or your rent, or your payroll, or whatever. It's a yearly budget after all.
Yeah, I don't see us ever having a problem or having to say, here's $3,000, you know, into that, because this is a division, right?
Yeah.
So the division, if we didn't spend that audit, that $3,000 could be put towards special meetings. You know, if we
Yeah,
had
okay, I
massive
see what
amounts
you
of
mean,
special meetings.
there's some elbow room there for you, yeah.
So just because we have a line item for it, doesn't mean that it's gonna be saved out of this division.
Can you page down a little bit and get more of that division in, since we've already seen the income part? So we can see what's all in there, that's good.
Okay, so we're still in legislative. Not a lot of things have changed. We're doing well, we're doing flush in regards to what operationally is needed right now within the district.
Well,
So,
I think I have the same question Bill has, is if you know that the audit is going to be coming in a certain year, why wouldn't you save $3,000 each year for that? Why is it better to have just 1 year with the 9,000 or whatever it is?
well, the reason why we did that is because I have other areas in my operational budget that I needed that 9,500.
Okay.
So we took it, we put it in other
I got it.
areas.
Okay, and then
So-
in the future, you'll just take it out of other categories and put
We take it out, where we take it out of is the capital expenditures. I
Okay,
mean, that 3,000 goes into capital, but we've never had a problem meeting that audit.
I get it, okay.
Yeah, meeting that audit line item. Now, is it 2020? Or is it
Yeah.
2019 that we're gonna be
In
on?
2020, we get all of it now.
So 2020, that 9,500, 10,000, whatever it's going to be, the 11,000, is gonna be a line item that is going to impact my operational divisions. It will impact those divisions. Because this 9,500's allowed me to use it in the operational, right, for now. But when 2020 comes around, those operational divisions, I need to be flush and I need to have that stuff purchased because that money's gonna have to be taken out of my other divisions and put back into the audit.
I understand, Chief, I see your point, okay, don't get me wrong here, I see how you're doing it and why you're doing it, but it's not true forecasting.
Well, we don't take the 3,000, we don't pay the audit out of capital reserves. The audit comes out of the operational
Yeah,
expense.
of course.
So the 3,000, if you're wanting me to keep 3,000 in here, well, if I don't spend that 3,000, it goes to capital reserve. So it doesn't matter. We don't spend the audit, or we don't go, okay, we write a check out of capital reserves for the audit. The next year is gonna have to show that line item, and it's gonna have to be spent out of, so the 3,000, putting away 3,000 a year, doesn't help us save for the audit, because that's put into capital reserves that we don't touch for that audit expense.
And generally, other departments do the same thing. If it's a non-audit year, that is removed.
That doesn't go into our checking accounts,
No,
Commissioner, so that 3,000 doesn't go into the checking account, and then 3,000, and 3,000, so we're saved up by that audit time. That's not how we do it.
I understand, and I can fully live with the whole thing. If I was just somebody walking in from the street and I have a little bit of accounting background, I would look at that. I say, Jesus Christ, $9,500 this year? Because that's what you budget for. That would not sit well with me.
Well, that's
For
what
somebody walking in from the street.
Well, the explanation would be that that's what the audit costs.
Yeah,
We have to be able to have the funds for the audit.
But it doesn't carry over from year to year.
No, it doesn't carry over year to year. Once we're done with the year, whatever we have left, if we have $60,000 that is from ambulance transports, because remember, we get, the last couple of years, we'll have to double check it, but let's just use a number, $20,000. Okay, that 20,000 goes automatically into reserves, plus anything that wasn't spent out of the operational divisions. So if I haven't spent $30,000 out of the operational divisions, then that's $50,000 in the capital reserve.
I'm fine with that, it makes sense. I understand Bill's point of,
But we have no other way to do it. I couldn't separate that out and put it into some account to be used because we don't have that account.
I'm good with it.
This is not our approved budget. While we're stopped for a minute,
Yeah.
can I go back up to the first item, which has to do with the tax levy?
Yeah.
When you're guesstimating what the taxes are going to be,
Yeah.
do you take in consideration what the taxes that you didn't receive from the previous year?
No,
Does that have
that's
any bearing
as
on
far
it?
as Patty continues getting taxes. So we'll get back taxes from 2016, maybe 2017, people pay. Those taxes that come in, what do we do with those taxes?
There's a line item there.
They just come in, yeah,
They come in and that becomes part of capital reserve.
correct.
So that doesn't get, throughout the year, if we get 20 grand of taxes in from previous years, or back taxes, we don't come back and add that to the operational
No,
funds.
okay.
That, once this is set, this is what I have for the year.
No, I understand that. I just wondered if you used in your estimation
No,
And I should,
anything that gave of history.
no.
No,
I
okay.
should probably change that line item. I will relabel that just to tax levy, because really the previous year estimate is not on there. That 566,000 for 2017 was the true estimate, and that was before we don't receive the new construction amount until mid-December, and so that does not reflect that, because it ended up being the 570,232, including,
So our estimate from the county is $570,000 and change.
Okay.
And then we get 5,000 and change in that 1%.
Mhm.
So it makes it our complete budget for, that's where this number comes from. So
Right.
$570,000 projection, okay, plus the percent that we took last year, plus this, plus the 5,000 we can take in 2018 is the 575. And I'll show you that sheet on November 8th. Okay?
That's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry I don't have that up. I just couldn't find the email, so I apologize for that. So let's go back down to legislative. So we discussed the 9,500, that's been reallocated into different areas of the operational budget. We increased legal to 1,000 because we're getting pretty close to the 5,000. So what we do, just so everybody knows, right now we have all the numbers every month. Patty puts together a spreadsheet capability that we have to see what the budget, and you guys have it in your 3 binders, what we've spent out of a division, what was budgeted for that division, and if we're over or if we're under that division line item and division as a whole. So Patty puts all that together for the commissioners to get done with the meetings to look at and to be able to see where we're corresponding to the funds. Okay? So we look at this when we're putting together the projections for the 2018 year budget. We look at the same list and go, okay, we still have a month and a half pretty much of expenditures to put out. Am I speaking correctly? Month and a half. So we have October and we have November and a half of December. Okay, so basically 2.5 months. 2.5 months. And we go, okay, so we have 2.5 months. So if we're at 4,700 on legal, okay, we project, okay, 2.5 months, we're probably going to go over that 5,000, so let's add some money for that in 2018. Okay, and again, it's about a divisional expenditure. Each line item, if I outspend this line item here, I can go to another line item somewhere else and take money from that, because it's about the divisional spending to not overspend this basically in that division. But if I do, then if I have room in other divisions, we can make that up without going over the budget. So the budget is used in a 360 component or 180 component, whatever would be the right way to say that, to run daily operations within the district and to pay our obligations. Okay, so the administrative division, does anybody have any issues with the legislative? Okay, so we are over professional organization dues. We paid to the Washington Fire Commissioners Association, International Association of Fire Chiefs, Washington Fire Chiefs, all of those types of things. And I have organizational dues down in the administrative division too, but I use both interchangeably for those to make up the difference. Because I never know, things change and we may become part of a new organization that year. So I try to put the cost into the right organizational due, whether it's legislative or administrative. Okay? Okay, so administrative division, my salary, we stayed at 60,000. I brought Assistant Chief Shields up 1,500 from from 34,000 to 35,500. I want to make sure you guys understand, there's been discussion about Chief Shield's salary and stuff, but he is contracted as an 80-hour employee. So that needs to be understood, and we need to make sure that, you know, his salary is reflecting the 80 hours. But we have to make sure that, you know, 160 hours, that's not where we're generating his pay salary or salary off of. Okay, it's for 80 hours a month. So 35,500. Finance manager, we kept the same. I'd like to discuss that as well. Captain, we removed that line item. Okay, so it's still showing just so you can see the change. The administrative captain, that's something that will maybe be added in the far future or in the 3 to 5 year outcome. We may have to add that because of how busy we're becoming and to assist Chief Shields in record keeping, those types of things. But right now, we don't need that position. Chief Shields is doing a great job. Together, we're able to get everything inputted, which is the main things that he does. I'm going to be taking a lot of the input process that Chief Shields does. I'm going to be putting that on the weekend duty captains. So at least the paperwork on the weekend duty that is completed, the sign-in sheets, will be inputted into our record-keeping system to where Chief Shields doesn't have to do that when he comes into the office on Monday or Tuesdays. So that'll take some workload off of Chief Shields so I can retask him to other areas within the district and things that I need to have done. Yes?
When your on-duty captain does that, when you've given him that task to do on a weekly basis, Chief Shields no doubt will have to recheck that on Monday morning or Monday afternoon, right?
Yeah, he'll check it, and then Chief Shields and I, at the end of every month, or the first week of the following month, Chief Shields and I sit down for basically an hour and a half, and we go over every thing that was inputted into the system that we use to create our
Okay, so
payroll.
what we're saving here, we're saving time for Chief Shields of not having to input the
Trainings, all of that stuff. Yeah, that's the captains are going to be trained to do that. And it's something that they can finish on their weekend duty, and it'll save him, you know, over a month period, probably 20 to 30 sheets of inputting information.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and again, it's for his ability to be retasked. There's other things that I need to have him doing and keeping on point on. So, I want to come back to the finance manager. The captain, so that 18,000 was reallocated. Okay, again, it was reallocated into other areas of the budget. FICA Medicare volunteers here, this is a new line item. Is that correct, Patty? Okay, so this is a new line item. We hadn't been visually tracking, we put it away, but now we've put it on paper to visually track it for the public to see. We were taking money and we were putting it, we were paying it, but it wasn't showing up anywhere here. So to be more transparent and more audit friendly, we decided to add a line up here that would show both fire and medical, okay, FICA, and the med volunteers. So that combines the firefighters and the EMS personnel, so suppression and EMS, into one line item, and both of those will be deducted from this line item. So now you'll be able to see the payments that we're making or how much it's costing us to pay the FICA for our volunteers. Okay, does anybody have any questions on that? Is that correct, Patty?
That is correct.
Okay.
We're just reallocating it from another line item.
Yeah, it was from another line item, but we've stuck it up into the administrative so it's more visible.
So that line item is basically just for the US people.
So do we pay FICA on the Canadians?
We do not, because they get paid via just a warrant voucher.
Right.
So
So that,
yes,
so that,
just
so
the
that line
US
item is
only.
just basically for the 8 people that are here and the 7 people.
So yes, the Point Roberts and the county people. So anybody that's a U.S. citizen
Okay,
and has a social security card.
okay.
Yeah. FICA Med, chief and assistant chief, I think we combined. Did we combine that or was that the same?
You are combined. It's always been that way.
It's always been that way.
Yeah, I could,
So it's combined, it's fine. So the same combination here, We're allocating about 6,900, which is an increase of 400 over last year. The captain became 0 because we've kept the position on paper, but we removed it. So we reallocated that 1,400, which is right here. The 900 stayed the same. Department, labor and industry. We deducted 4,500 because that's not costing us as much as we have projected. So we've decided to cut that line item a little bit and reallocate that to other areas of the budget. These have all stayed the same. Coming down to professional services, we added $1,000 to that. Professional services is I pay our webmaster, who's not full-time, I need to make that clear, but we pay our webmaster to post stuff to the YouTube and to our webpage and all of those types of things that I need help with. And then we pay our physician advisor out of that as well. And then some other professional organizations we pay out of that. It's not the professional organizational dues, but it's services that are provided, web-based things. And if we want to get specific on that, we can pull who we've paid out of that. Other things that come out of this are actually that's out of wellness, so that's not correct, so I'll leave that alone. Systems Design is our billing company that bills for our medical transports. And what do they charge per call? Maybe $35, that's a rough estimate, but $35 every time we transport somebody to St. Joseph's. We don't get paid when we rendezvous at Checkpoint Bravo. Okay, so if we call up a medic unit or we call up North Whatcom and they meet us at Ladner Trunk in 99 at Old Station 4 for Delta, they can bill that, but we can't dual bill or double bill that patient. So we don't get anything for those transports to them. It's only when we transport the patient all the way to St. Joseph's that we can bill their insurance for reimbursement of that. Background checks are staying the same. Postage, all of that stays the same. FAR's radio system, that's what we pay to be part of the county emergency services radio system to be able to use some of the other towers if necessary.
Chief, I got a question about this transport billing.
Yes.
Has that always been a rule that the end
Yeah.
provider bill
Yeah.
has always been like that?
Yep.
And why is that?
Well, the easiest, you can't double bill a patient.
Say what?
You can't double bill a patient. It's only the end service that can bill. So the service that ends the transport.
I understand that, but why was that done?
I don't have the answer.
It has to do with Medicare's rules.
It is, yeah,
Okay.
that is correct. I don't know what rule that is, though. I don't know what rule that is. Now, Washington State, I just found this out yesterday. Washington State has approved our ability to fully, were you at this meeting the other day?
No.
Okay, so-
Often when-
Yeah, I have to do some more investigating on it, but we should, in the future, we have to fill out the paperwork. I need to contact Systems Design, was at this meeting the other day. But there's been legislation passed or some rule passed that allows us to bill a full amount to Medicare. So, for transports.
Half a transport, or
Let's say our bill comes to $900, okay? We only get like $200 from Medicare
right.
for that transport. But it sounds like it's going to benefit organizations that have a larger per call, okay, monetary status, meaning that we run 200 calls a year, and there's a certain amount of money that is per call, right? It's just the issue of doing business. Well, organizations that run, like down in LA, organizations that run 100,000 calls, right? And they have maybe 20,000 of those are Medicare patients, the mathematics are different within those calculations. So we may get benefit from that, and if we can gain another $5,000 in transports a year, that's a benefit to our capital reserves that we can use to maintain this organization. Okay, so I'm going to have to look into it, and it's going to be a process, but if we're capable of getting that paperwork signed and turned in, then that's something that I'll do to try to benefit our transports with our Medicare patients. And it'll be able to do that.
The reason you don't transport all the way is the personnel that takes away from the point, is that?
That's correct. So let me explain that for people that may be watching this video. Is sometimes we don't transport all the way down to St. Joseph's, and that is because of the lack of personnel we may have maintaining or remaining in the district. And let's say, well, there was one time that John and I had to transport down to Checkpoint Bravo, and we were on point, but we had to go to Ladner Trunk. It was my choice not to take that patient all the way down to St. Joseph's because the community would have been without service at that point. So we make those decisions depending on what the system is doing. Is North Whatcom available? Are there any medic rigs available? Are there other BLS units available that can come to Checkpoint Bravo? Because sometimes the system is so busy, it doesn't allow that transfer to happen. And we may pull our last available people off Point Roberts to go down to St. Joseph's because we have no other choice. Now, we use Airlift Northwest as a transport unit too. They're just not for critical or high acuity patients. We use them for that purpose. But if we're really in a bind, we could utilize Airlift Northwest to make that transfer down to St. Joseph's so we can maintain coverage here in Point Roberts. Yeah, and I think that may happen one or two times, a year, to where we get down to that level that we're at risk of dropping coverage here. But it's like one or two times a year out of everything that we do, right? And that's usually when everybody's on vacation, and that's during the summer. People like to leave. Okay, books and publications, I kept it the same, all of that. We went down to professional services, systems design, postage, all that. Cellular is looking good, all this is looking good. Communication tower contract, so we put that up to 55, because 5,100. I think we spent right at $44,800 and some dollars, or close to $5,000 this year. That contract is 3% per year. Okay, so we have to add 3%. So I'm a little heavy on that line, but I just want to make sure that we have enough within that. Coming down to travel and conferences, I moved that up 500 for professional development purposes. Public relations, I've moved that up 800 as well, and that's just buying the pub ed material that I buy, the firefighter hats, coloring books, those types of things for the kids, and general PR. Office equipment and repair and maintenance, we're moving that line up because copier, I don't know when we got that copier, 2013, we got it off of a grant, the copier machine in there, but we're using it more and more and more, we're getting more busier on it, and the cost is going up. So they come up and maintain it on a quarterly basis or on a biannual basis, or when we call them. Like if it starts printing out bad copies, we'll call them, they'll come up here, clean it, exchange things out. But we needed to move that up because of where we're adding expenditures this year. The Tahoe repair maintenance, I increased that by 500, and professional organization dues I kept. Does anybody have any questions on the administrator? Okay, so suppression has some changes in it. Volunteer firefighter suppression, I moved the cost of stipends up to $75,000. It's an increase of $2,000. Retirement and disability, we have a banked capacity with Board of Volunteer Firefighters. Over the last couple of years, I've given them $3,000. And Board of Volunteer Firefighters covers our disability and pension on every volunteer that we have. So if they get injured, it's covered through the Board of Volunteer Firefighters. And their hospital bills are sent down to them, and they reimburse and stuff like that, write checks, and pay the bills for that volunteer firefighter. We've had a few injuries over the years, and they've been great to work with. Sprained ankles, a broken elbow, and a couple other things, but they've been great to work with. So I reduced that because we still have about $2,000 in that account that carries over year to year to year. Okay? But I never want to get behind in that account either. So that's good. That's our medical insurance for our volunteers. Wellness program. So the wellness program is our yoga, our physical fitness on the weekends with a physical trainer that comes in, and purchasing weight equipment and those types of things throughout the year. I'll remind the public, and for all those sitting here today, is that the #1 killer of us is heart attack. And that's something that we're moving into Within regards to AFG grants, I need to have an established wellness program to put in for AFG monies that could purchase us a treadmill or more lifting equipment, things that would help us become more physically capable and healthy in our lifestyles. So we're working on that right now, getting some language put into place that I could hopefully, possibly write an AFG grant for some wellness equipment, a Stairmaster or a stairmill, a treadmill, another bike, those types of things in order to help our firefighters not succumb to that cardiac arrest before their time. Okay, we all meet the day of too many birthdays. It all comes to us at some point, but we don't want it to come to an end prior to that time. So that's the wellness program, and the marketplace, that's our supplies for weekend. Firefighter accountability, I moved that up. Firefighter accountability is our pass tags. So pass tags are a personal accountability safety system, and that is, each truck has 2 tags. They're Velcro, and each firefighter has a little teeny tiny tag with their names on it, and that is for purposes of ICS accountability, so incident command accountability. So I know who's on what rig, who's assigned where. If we're missing somebody, I'll be able to figure out who I'm missing, those types of things if a Mayday is called, and we're unable to hear who called the Mayday. So that's firefighter accountability along with some other stuff within that, name tags, etc. SCBA, repair, maintenance, and supplies, I reduced that because what did we just get? We just are brand new SCBAs and they're under warranty. So I don't think we're going to be spending a lot of money in that area, but we still may need to purchase some masks for new hires, those types of things, and some additional stuff that goes along with SCBAs. Dispatch fees. So dispatch fees, any transport that we make to St. Joseph Hospital, Prospect Communications charges us for it. So if we do 40 transports, it's so much money per transport that we end up having to pay back to Prospect at the end of the year. And that's for their services as our communication center. I forget what it is per transport, but we don't get billed for it unless we take them down to St. Joseph's. So if we rendezvous with Whatcom, Whatcom has that bill at the end because they're the end agency. Okay, we don't pay for that. But we pay for Airlift Northwest. So we pay for their dispatch fee. So if Airlift Northwest transports somebody from here, which is usually a dozen calls a year, give or take, plus or minus 2, that we pay for their transport fee down to St. Joseph's Hospital. Pagers, radio supplies, I increased that by $1,500. We're going to need to start looking at starting to replace some of our pagers, and I forget how old they are now.
10.
Around 10 years. So we're getting to the service lifespan of them because they're dropped and everything else, they have water in them, and there's only a certain amount of time that you can keep taking them back to be repaired and repaired and repaired. So we're going to have to start looking at maybe replacing 5 a year or getting another AFG grant to cover replacements with those. Engine 58 is the 1994 Darley. Up here, I reduced that down to $4,000. Engine 5802, I minus $1,000 on that as well. We are going to put 4 new tires on engine 58 and possibly 5802 before the end of the year. What did 5802's tires look like?
We're going to need to do those.
So we have 6 tires.
8. We've got 8 tires on the big engine.
8 tires.
4 tires on the little
What's
one.
the average per tire?
The tire, the 2 for the small, the 4 they're going to put on the small engine are going to be about $2,500.
Okay, so for 4 tires.
Yeah.
And then
So multiply that by 2, so 5.
So around $5,000 just
The
to
big
replace the
engine.
tires on the 5802. And that most likely will be done. If I have enough money left out of my operational lines, I would like to get that done with this operational budget versus in 2018. So we're going to have to, at the end of November, we'll be sitting down, seeing how close we are to my operational budget line. And if I have some leeway with some funds, then most likely that's going to be done before winter hits. Yeah.
So given the age of those vehicles, why are you reducing the amount of maintenance that you're saving for?
So the nice thing that we're doing with these is every year they go in for pump testing and a full walkthrough, oil change and everything. And we've averaged that out. The stuff that comes up, you know, I can never project
The incidentals.
when that vehicle is going to bust, right? So I could have $10,000 in this line item if I wanted to, just because, well, it's probably going to bust at some point, you know, during the year. But we're really trying to keep that minimized to where this is the average of what it's cost for us to do the thing we have to have done every year. And then the other expenditures, the tires, things like that, we use the entire division to overcome that cost.
So like last year when you had to have the tank line,
Yeah.
where did that come out of?
Capital.
Okay.
And we're able to use capital reserve to extend the life of an apparatus. So that was a decision a couple years ago by the auditor. I went down with Suzanne and they mentioned that, and I called to confirm with the auditor before we did that as well. And it's not for just the usual stuff. So I can't use capital reserve to replace the tires. We're talking about something structurally wrong with the rig, that if we don't repair it, then we have to buy a new rig, right?
Okay.
So that's why the capital reserves were allowed to be utilized in that circumstance. Yeah. Hydrant maintenance is staying at 750. I think this next summer, when the weather gets nice, I'm going to open up hydrant painting again. Yeah, because we still have about 140 some hydrants on point that haven't been painted. And I have 4 on Clare Lane. So anybody in the public that wants to paint the 4 Clare Lane hydrants, I have 4 on my street.
I think we've got a few more than that, because we've got the 7 new ones at the marina, and then we've got the 12 or 14 at Seabright too.
Yeah, and that'll be fine. I'll leave it where it's at, but it'll be okay, because we purchase the paint for the people. When we have somebody that wants to go out and beautify hydrants, they shouldn't have to pay for the paint and stuff like that. So those are the things. We're in charge of checking the hydrants on a yearly basis, flushing them, but any type of inner working maintenance is on the water district. So we don't repair or replace or anything like that on the hydrants. We maintain the outside of the hydrants. Okay. Disaster preparedness is 1,000. Specialized emergency response program, PPE washer dryer. So every year, everything that moves in here almost, we have a contract, a service contract, to come in every year and to do our garage doors. We have a service contract to come in and do our washers and dryers to make sure that they're running at their optimal, so they last longer. We don't wait until something breaks, right? Because then usually you wait and wait and wait, and it breaks so bad you have to replace it. So just like any other organization, we have an ongoing maintenance program with the highest cost things or highest value things like the garage door and the apparatus and everything else that we maintain. So that's what the PPE washer and dryer repair and maintenance is. Any questions on that division? Suppression training division didn't change. We pretty much kept everything the same in that division from 2017. We seem to have enough money in that division. This year I'll be bringing in some outside instructors. So the suppression instructor line item, we may go over that, but we should be able to stay within the divisional expenditure line. Maintenance division, same thing. Small tools now, again, remember that I have that $6,000 from the food expense that doesn't need to be in the budget anymore. That's going to be redistributed here. So on November 8th, you may see some of these have changed, and I'll go over those changes with you, just so I can make sure that miscellaneous small tools, we need to buy some drills, we need to buy some sawzalls, we need to buy some toolboxes for the engines, things like that. So that's going to be an expenditure. I may be able to get that into the 2017 operational expenditures, depending on how much money I have left out of this, my 2017 budget. So I may try to purchase that before the end of the year to reserve the 2018 budget on those line items. But I'll still redistribute that $6,000. Garbage is pretty good. Maintenance is doing good. Generator costs. So the big generator out here, every year we have the guy come up and they maintain it. Okay, through it, they change the fluids and everything like that on it. So we are 99.9% sure that it's going to function when we need it to. Yeah.
And he was here today.
And he was here today doing it.
I have a question for you.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Regarding the generator, what's the lifespan of that machine?
Lifespan of that machine?
Yeah.
Until it breaks. Basically, they say every 7 years we replace all the belts and hoses, and that was done in 2014. Every 5 years we replace the battery, and they've replaced the start battery today, and all the fluids are done every year.
Okay. Thanks. I have one more question about the generator. What, how many, does anybody know how many gallons per hour that thing uses?
That it has a 125 gallon tank, and at 50% capacity it will run for a week and a half.
No, it won't.
That's what the guy told me.
24 hours a day?
50% capacity, not 100% capacity.
Okay.
50% of its capacity.
And it depends.
How many kW is it?
It is 40.
40.
Yeah, and it depends what
It
areas.
will use about 3 gallons an hour.
Yeah, it depends what areas, the load on that is going to be dependent upon, if we have an earthquake, what's still standing, and what areas of the fire station can we still use, right? So we may be shutting off certain areas of the fire station, which is going to decrease the load, and the fuel's going to be able to last us longer in that. Chief Shields and I were looking at getting storage, fuel storage, in the back of this station. That would be 250 of diesel, 250 of unleaded for that critical emergence need. If we have an earthquake, we can tap the tanks at the shell.
The only station that has a generator right now is they just got it up and running is the Shell.
Is the shell.
It's the
But
shell.
Can-Am, can we access Can-Am?
No, there's no other fuel anywhere that we can get access to.
Yeah, that's the only generator on the fuel stations.
Right.
Okay, is the shell.
Yeah.
So we can access their tanks, right? We'd have to, secure those because everybody's going to want fuel, right? And we're going to need to make sure that we are dispensing fuel so one person or 5 people won't get all the fuel, right? But for emergency operations, we're going to need to make sure. So we have that access, but we also want to have our own access here for that generator. So we don't have to go down there, try to get diesel, come back up here and fill it up, that we can fill it up right here. So we're looking at that. That permitting process is a jungle because we have to have the container that's going to house those fuel tanks. And it's one fuel tank, 250 split in half. So it's a 500 gallon tank, but 250 on each, split in half, 250. And, but we have to have something that will be able to catch if it ruptures, to catch all the fuel and those types of things, and a drain field. So there's a lot of permitting that goes in. We're in discussions with the fire marshal's office to see what that's going to entail. Okay, and that cost is going to be roughly what, John?
Oh, I think the tank itself is about 5.
So 5 to 10 grand is going to be the cost to get fuel on site for that critical need. If that's decided to do, right now it's conceptual, right? We don't know if it'll come to completion or not, but it's something that we're at least looking into to possibly have that discussion at a later date. Any questions about the suppression division or the maintenance division?
Maintenance question.
Yes.
What about the septic?
Septic field, he comes up and inspects it every year.
Is he in the budget, or does he come up on?
No, that is used out of the maintenance, facility maintenance.
Facility maintenance.
Gotcha.
Right here. So we take that fee
Okay, great.
out of that. Yeah, but he comes up every year
Right.
and inspects it and files the reports with the county, whatever's required there. And he's been great to work with. Yeah, and again, the septic mounds but we're going to be clearing those again, and then we're going to be burning the shrub. We have a big pile of shrubs that we got off the mounds, but we're going to clear them again. And a couple times a year, we're going to have to clear the mounds and burn it off and stuff.
So my plan and Bill's plan to put in planting in front of that to kind of screen it.
Yeah.
Do you think that's reasonable? I mean, can we do that like in the open winter? Or is it going to be too hard to do if you're going to continue to keep them clean on a regular basis?
But yeah, whether we put the shrubbery in, we still have to maintain them.
Right.
Right. So I don't really notice them from the road. That's the thing. I know we discussed that in the past about putting up some type of fencing or shrubbery,
Yeah.
something like that. If we do put something up, I'd like to have it something that is very low maintenance,
Yeah, oh yeah.
right? I don't want my firefighters out there having to go out there every single day and water something.
No, this was, no, we talked about that, and one of the issues that we discovered after we talked about it was that the mounds actually, in front of the mound, or south of the mounds, there's actual pavement still there.
Yeah, yeah.
And so there's soil on top of that, but it's not very deep. And so if we put a shrub in, it's got to go a little bit further north, and then we get into issues, but it is kind of ugly. But there are some other.
I'll leave that up to the commissioners to make that choice.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll leave that up to you guys to decide what you want to do there.
Pots,
What was that?
pots.
Then they need water. It gets pretty hot.
How about fake shrubbery?
There you go.
Plastic.
There you go. We get fake Christmas trees and they can light up.
Plastic shrubbery. Okay, EMS division, so volunteer firefighter EMS, so the volunteer firefighter suppression was $75,000. We're spending more money in the EMS division. Remember that if I'm not here, I try to have a paramedic in my place or an advanced EMT. When I come in, I am that coverage for the district. So some days, depending on our workload and if it's a long weekend or the summer is taken off and I got another 6,000 people here, during the summer, I staff heavy. Okay, so from basically May through the end of September, every day of the week, we make sure we have at least 2, 3, 4 people capable of responding to a call. And then we have 2 firefighters out at night. Then we have that weekend duty that's from Friday night to Sunday night. So we're doing really good on coverage. The volunteers are working extremely hard, and their volunteerism is definitely appreciated.
So that's their salary.
That's for 45 volunteers,
Right.
and we have 16 EMS providers.
I know, but it just says volunteer firefighter EMS.
Yes.
It doesn't,
That's calculated off the EMS coverage.
that's their pay that they get from us.
Yes. So everybody that's part of that group,
Right.
some may make $300 in stipends that month for participating in trainings and calls and stuff like that. Others may, make $500. So depending on what they make, that's the payroll that we do every month. So I, with Patty's assistance, we average about $600 to $6,500 a month on EMS specific cost to the district. And the rest of that cost, so if we have, let's say the volunteer firefighters is $13,700. Okay, $6,500 of that may be for EMS, and the other half would go to the firefighter suppression volunteer line item and be taken out of that. So I'm trying to show or have a good perspective for the public to see what we're spending in EMS coverage and what we're spending on the firefighter coverage. And here we're kind of unique because our call volume is almost 50-50. When I do the pie charts and spreadsheets from our reporting system, we're almost 50-50 on that, maybe 54 to whatever that would be, 46, right? So we're pretty close. Other organizations that have a larger population, they're 80% medical, and 20% fire, where we're almost even on that.
And what's the percentage of firefighters who get paid, since we have so many from Canada that don't do?
So that fluctuates all throughout the year because we have people that get I-10s and then they get hired, so they're done at that point. Then we have a massive amount of, we have a new hire, and they don't get, they're on probation for 9 months. And they don't get stipends for that period of time, or 6 months. I might start paying them at 6 months depending. So, but they have to get their I-10. The I-10 takes 2 to 3 months, if they're lucky, to get through the IRS. And once they get we've just had 2 people get their I-10s, and that paperwork was given to financial manager Raquel. And those people now will be back paid to January 1. So if it's not a month to month, it's a year to year. So if they get their I-10 October 31st of that year, I pay them all the stipends that they've earned for that year. I mean, that's just on that. But if they don't get it before our last meeting of the year, it's void. and they start at 0 to January 1st of the following year. I explained this years ago, I explained this, I think,
Yeah, you did.
yeah, that we used to pay 5-6 years back,
Yeah.
right? And there's no way that we can plan for that in a budget.
No, I mean, that's fair. So what, in general, what is the percentage of people who are receiving?
I think we're high right now. We have a lot of firefighters that have their ITINs. So out of the firefighters that we have, Patty would be able to get the number specifically for you.
Yeah, I mean, just a ballpark-ish.
Right, 7
Yeah, 7 to 10
to 10.
firefighters. And we
I think
have
there's
26, I think. So I think we're at the highest that I've seen our ITINs be for the Canadians.
Okay, so you said 7 to 10 out of the 26?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we normally have 3, 4 that have gotten their ITINs.
So the majority do not get paid
Yeah.
anything?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to.
And if more and more, obviously the firefighter suppression line is going to be deducted from, and we're going to see more pay coming out of that line versus the EMS.
Okay, thank you.
Because they have to have it approved and a vendor number before the meeting in December.
Right. Okay.
And if they get it, if the meeting is on December 11th and they get it December 12th, it's going. And they know that. They know that. We send out a lot of emails. We have discussions with everybody. They know the date. So, they can start the first day they get hired and have their I-10 4 months into their probation. And then they have it, now they're just waiting to be off probation and start getting those stipends, right? But a lot of people procrastinate and wait and wait and wait, and it's not our fault.
Is it an onerous process to go through?
It can be,
Okay.
yeah. They usually have to send in their application 2 or 3 times before it's approved. And they have to get a rejection letter from the IRS, and they have to send that rejection letter in with another application or a redo application back to a governmental agency. And then that other agency looks at it, maybe reject it again. They get that, send it back a 3rd time, and then magically they get approved. It just depends. So it is a process. Yeah. So coming down to the final, down at the bottom here. So 2017, the budget was $573,694. 2018 projected budget, operational line budget, divisional budget, okay, is $574,294. Because we were able to reallocate so much stuff, it is only an increase of $600 over the 2017 budget because of our ability to reallocate the funds that weren't going to be used. I do want to bring up, I need to go back to Patty's salary, and we also, I would like to discuss the secretarial salary as well, to see if we need to, or you guys have recommendations for changes in those areas. I think that's where we'll start. So I want to go back to financial manager first. So currently Patty's at 11,520. Is that 900 a month? 960 a month. So it's 960 a month is what that salary is. I need to give big props to Patty. We're going to get a rebate check of $12,000 and change from the IRS. Patty found this money, and where did it come from?
Well, when the district switched from the county doing their payroll over to paychecks back in the latter part of 2013, I think it was set up, and it's just been running fine ever since without a thought being put into it. With that, paychecks, they do all of the quarterly reporting for L&I and employment security and so forth, along with monthly payments for federal income tax withholding and so forth. But they've been filing what's called a 940 form, which is to pay annual FUTA, which is federal unemployment tax. And that's just paid by the employer on behalf of the employee. I think it's at about a rate of 6% of that employee's, their base for $7,000 that they make. I'm not real familiar with it, but from what I've read. Anyhow, payroll's been done since that was set up, and it wasn't until, I think it was June, when I had started looking into District 7, coincidentally, going out and doing our own payroll, because we're also under the county, so I started looking at things, and kind of one thing led to another via questions as a fluke, and I came across some IRS information that states that since we are a state or local government, FUTA should not be charged. The employer should not pay that. So I contacted Paychecks, and they went back and they redid the annual 940 forms. They couldn't go back for 2013, but they did 14, 15, and 16. And thus led, we just finally, it's taken several weeks, but just got notification yesterday that it'll be about $12,900 back. And our account has since been coded to not pull that anymore. And I'll be following up with Paychecks to make sure that they will no longer be filing that annual report at all. And no other further funds taken out for 2017. And also I need to check with them and see if any funds have been taken out this year and not paid yet that need to go back into our account. So I'll be working on that next.
Okay. So that's going to be $12,000 that when we receive that check, that's going to be put into capital reserve. And it was money that, when Susan Kinsey and I set that up and we looked over it, we did it at the time to the best of our ability through the information that we had, talking to the IRS and other people too. But now we look back on that, and Patty reviews this on a regular basis. We look back, it's not Paycheck's job to find something that we're doing incorrectly and to tell us about it and say, hey, you're losing money here. But because of Patty's investigative work, we were able to find that hole, and now it's patched, and we're going to get reimbursement back for 14, 15, and 16. Is that correct? So I want to extend her gratitude, because $12,000 is a lot of money, especially for capital reserves in our organization. It can do a lot for us in the future. So I think she needs to shake her hand after the meeting on that one. So I want to talk about her salary, and I also want to talk about the secretarial salary. So I would like to extend raising Patty's salary. I agree, and that is open for discussion. But Patty is our saving grace, as is Linda as our secretarial staff, for transparency in the organization, and the notes that Linda is able to make, the detail that she has in her notes, the hours that she spends on that every meeting. But going back to Patty, Patty is our saving grace when it comes to all of our finances, working with the county with all of the different accounts that we have in the county, getting us prepared for audit purposes, which is a year-to-year challenge. We have to make sure that all of the paperwork is put aside for the years upcoming, because when the audit comes, they pull every part of our organization to take a look at. They specifically look at certain things within audits, but those certain things can really task us. And if we have that set aside and prepared, then it's better for us and better for the audit team. So Patty's in charge of the finances. She's the one that calculates all the money and makes sure that we have transparency within the organization and to the public, and that we have high-quality documents that are ongoing and approved for the commissioners to review on a monthly basis. So it takes a lot of time. She is contracted for 30 hours a month, but I would like to put it open to the floor for ideas. If you don't want to discuss it now, then on November 8th, I would like to reopen that conversation for that pay to be adjusted for both Patty and the Secretary Linda Hughes.
So Patty also works with you on the budget,
Absolutely.
and that is an ongoing monthly
Yeah, we're in constant contact.
thing. And the documentation that the commissioners get every month is extremely detailed and gives you all the information you could ever want. So then she also does all the payroll and expenses. So approximately, Patty, do you know about how many checks you process or warrants you process, however you want to say that, a month?
Oh, for payables?
For everything, basically.
You should know that, you approve the vouchers, don't you?
What was that?
It's probably, what,
It's-
20
Yeah,
2025.
25, I'd say,
Yeah.
consistently, because we
Yeah.
have the usuals that are every month,
Yeah.
and then just a few stragglers.
I will count them next time for you.
I will go back and count them.
Okay.
I'd say 20 to 25.
And that includes all the bills we pay by her. Now, a lot of things I've started paying by credit card.
Yeah.
So when I can pay, that's why my credit card statement's getting bigger. And line items, we say this because if I can pay a service, what do you call that? Sorry. A company that we deal with.
Oh.
A vendor.
Company?
No. Somebody that we purchase something from.
Oh, yes, a vendor.
A vendor, sorry. That was so easy. I feel ashamed. I feel ashamed now. That was so easy. So if a vendor accepts credit, I pay them immediately. So they have that turnaround versus having to wait, and it's a 30-day turnaround for the
It's
checks.
more like 45, actually, through the
so-
county, depending on when we get the invoice.
Yeah, so I'll pay what I can, so that reduces, right, the vendors that she's paying out in warrants and the checks and stuff like that, but it doesn't take away from what she's doing and the time that she spends.
Chief, I'm starting to smell a real bad feeling of collaboration here. She's
She
writing
actually-
checks here.
I actually
He
talked to
asked
her.
me, and I
And-
said, no, I'm fine.
Yeah, I actually talked to her,
You'll be my witness.
and the first thing she said.
Are you pitching for yourself now too,
Uh,
Chief, or what? What's happening here?
No,
No, wait,
Okay.
let's
No,
go back
I-
to this for a second. I want to finish the serious part of the conversation. So when you get your credit card statement, you actually still submit it to her with all of the receipts and stuff.
Absolutely.
So she's still processing the.
she has to take because I division it up, right? So every single line item, I may have something that I spent on my credit card that was for emergency reporting. So I tag that 5173 on my credit card.
Right.
So she knows to take that $600 and put it towards this line item and deduct it from the 2,500.
Yeah, you make
That
it
makes
very
sense.
easy.
So I do that every month for the credit card. Every single purchase, I put a number next to, so she deducts it from that line item and division. Yeah.
So what I'm getting at is.
Yeah, so
although
she has to
may
do
not
that.
Be doing a warrant or something, she is still adjusting, she's still
Yeah.
going over your.
Everything we pay
statement and-
has a number
Right.
categorized to it. So she has to go into the budget that you receive on a monthly basis,
Yeah.
and she has to mathematically deduct those line items. So it is accurate for the commissioners.
Right.
Chief, before we go any deeper into salary or any increases for the two individuals, I would suggest that we mull this over, the commissioners that is, and then next month, that shouldn't be a long meeting next month, we'll have an executive session.
And we still have this. So the food is $6,000 that I have movable. Okay, so this is open.
Yeah.
So what I was discussing with you is I was going to reallocate that, but some of that can be reallocated into secretarial increase and a financial manager increase.
So, Bill, did I?
And what's
hear you-
left, I'll reallocate into the other areas.
Did I hear you correct that you want to have an executive session?
I'd rather do that than lay it all out in the
I
open.
think
Yeah,
that makes
I'm
sense.
sorry,
I like
but
that.
that's how I feel.
So take the 6,000, that can be used to make adjustments.
Right.
And then whatever, if those adjustments are made, and whatever they may be, then whatever is left, if there's anything left out of this line item, I'll reallocate that to another area of my operational budget.
All right.
So is there any questions on the preliminary 2018 budget?
No, it's pretty well done there,
Pretty
I think.
clear.
Yeah, pretty clear.
I really like the detail. I
Yeah.
like to see every single line item there. I like to see it divided. I know you have a lot of wiggle room of moving things around and stuff like that, but when you have things so detailed and so separated out, I think that really presents such a clear picture of what's going on that it's very good. I really appreciate it.
Where does the secretary's salary, what line item is?
She's up.
I think she's in legal, I think she's in
It's a
legal.
little bit above that.
No, I think she's up in legal.
Up.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go,
She's in
okay.
legal.
So she makes $1,600 a
So
year.
she makes, yeah, she makes $130 a meeting.
A meeting.
Okay, I believe that's what it is.
Yeah.
$130 a meeting, at this point.
And then Medicare and FICA is taken out of that. So it's about, it nets to about $119.
Okay, because again, we still have to pay the FICA and everything for the secretary too, right? So,
Do we?
no, yeah, we pay FICA and med.
Isn't she a contract employee?
She is not, she's not
She's
under,
she's an employee.
Yeah,
she's
she
not under
is,
a contract.
just as are the commissioners.
All right.
The
Okay, gotcha.
FICA and Medicare.
She's actually required by law.
Yes.
I mean, she's the only employee that's required by a fire
okay.
district. The chief is not. We choose to have a chief.
Yeah, I'm contracted with the district.
Yeah, we pay 5 on you.
Do you have any questions that have popped up? If we're not going to make the decision on the changes or the recommendations, so we can reflect those on November 8th, okay? Because if you said, okay, let's increase Patty's salary to this, let's increase the secretary's salary to this, then we can make those changes between now and November 8th and then reflect that at the meeting. But then if we make another change at the meeting, that would
I
be reflected
understand what
at
you're
that.
saying.
Because if that's going to be the case, then that food line is going to stay 6,000 in this budget, and we'll just adjust that line. So I'm just throwing out a number, let's say $1,000 for combined for both of them is taken out of that line, then the food is going to drop to 1,000 or 5,000. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but you can still shift between the numbers.
But then I can still use it
Yeah.
in my overall budget.
Right.
So that line item wouldn't be zeroed out. It's
No, I'm
being
not
done.
talking about a whole bunch of dollars either.
Right.
So let's leave that alone. I think we can live with the budget the way it is. How about you guys?
Because if we make a change to Patty's salary, that needs to be done by amendment.
By what?
Because she's under contract. So an amendment needs to be put into her contract of the salary change.
And we can do that at our November meeting.
That's correct. The amendment can be stated at that meeting and approved,
Yeah.
and then written after that, because we wouldn't have it available per se at that meeting.
No, and we can make that, but we can make the decision retroactive on, let's say, the 1st of December, or make it effective.
Yeah. We can make it effective at that November meeting and then have it written at the following meeting,
Yeah.
just for it to be signed.
And if we want to increase Linda, the secretary's position, it's basically the same thing, but we don't need an amendment.
That's
because
correct.
She's just an employee.
Yeah. Yeah, that is correct. It's not by amendment for her, because she doesn't have a contract.
What are her estimated hours per month?
Linda's?
Linda's?
That's a good question. I don't know. Do you have any idea on that?
I don't, but
I think it's an average of 3 hours
she
per
must,
meeting,
because,
at least.
yeah, I do board secretary for District 7, and it's time consuming, honestly. Not only, think about, she comes to the meetings, she prepares the agenda, and then if it,
Put them online.
yes, whoever needs to be
So-
notified. And then after the fact is going through, and let me tell you, I've seen meeting minutes, and compared to my own, hers are in great detail, which is really
They are.
great. They're very in-depth, and that takes
That's
time,
good.
so.
Okay.
So-
I might, yeah.
So I want to make sure I understand this. So at the next meeting on that Wednesday, the 8th, we're going to do a little executive breakout session to discuss secretary and finance manager salaries.
And I would recommend that's first,
Yeah,
because we need to come out of that, make a decision,
yes.
make sure that's reflected
on the budget,
on the budget if a change is made,
right?
okay? And then the budget would be approved.
And
At
if
that
we're
point,
able
with those
to
changes.
make that change.
We could
Do
probably,
you need to actually like do it on the spreadsheet, or is it just that we've gone through this?
we'd make the change and then before we post it, that change would be reflected before we post it online and
Oh,
give
right,
it to,
yeah, no.
and send it down to the county. But verbally, we can make that change up here.
And we
So the
can make
public
that
can
change for, this would be starting January 1st. If
Or
we
December
change-
Whatever you
1st,
want.
whatever you come up
That's
with.
up. That change would be directed by you.
Okay.
And can we maybe have an idea of what the hours are for the financial secretary, I mean, for the secretary?
Yes, I will have that information for you from Linda. I'll ask her to give us her hours, average out her hours that she's spending on a monthly
I think
basis.
that's important.
And so you guys can have an idea. of what
Well, I
she's-
can tell you, she, like Patty, feels that she's being paid sufficiently and that anything that she does, anything additional she does for the good of the organization.
That's not the question.
You're,
Let's not go overboard on this, that's all philosophical here.
yeah.
Now, what you just said is all fine and dandy. Is that between us three commissioners, do you want to accept the budget as it is?
Well, you can't make that decision here.
No.
No,
If you want any changes, please email me those changes, and then we'll make that adjustment. We'll express that at the next meeting, and then you finalize it and approve it at the next meeting, but not here.
Okay, and then the two resolutions that we have in front of us are
Oh,
just for
yeah, let me bring those up.
in advance?
So I'm gonna bring those up so the public can see them,
Okay,
okay? And these are just these could be the resolutions, especially, you have to decide at the next meeting whether or not to take the 1%, because we'll have a resolution to take it and not to take it, so I think we have
Okay.
a resolution here now saying we're
Both of
going
these reflect
the
the
1%.
1%.
that's what I meant, actually, I'm sorry, I knew we couldn't finally deal with this whole thing.
Right,
I saw this
yeah,
thing
so
and
let
I
me
thought
bring
that
those
was,
up real quick.
yeah, this is about the 1%, are we all familiar with that?
And
So this is resolution 2017-04. So this is done on a yearly basis. This is not something new, just for the public to understand. Resolutions have to be submitted to the county regarding our budgets every single year. Okay, so this is what we present and what we certify and then send it down to the county. So again, we're not making this decision. This is just for the verbiage for you guys to read. This is based off if you decide to take the 1%. But again, we'll have to create, if you decide not to take the 1% and bank it again. Then we get into the issue of bank capacity and trying to make that bank capacity up. So I prefer that for my budgetary purposes and operationally within the district that we stay with the 1%.
Cleaner that way.
It's very clean that way. Plus, again, I think I put it in perspective for everybody that 1% is the contract hour.
well, we're gonna need some vehicles too, so.
Yeah, and vehicles, that's another discussion that's going to have to start in 2018 regarding our apparatus fleet. So the public can read this. It's been up here so you can read what it says. It's standard language for that. So that's the 2017-4. This is 2017-5. Goes along with the same language. This includes the 1% increase, so this would be the operational budget. Okay, for,
That would be the levy amount that we received.
oh, this would be the levy amount that we would receive. The operational budget is not this.
No, but where, in the first paragraph, whereas the attachment exhibit A.
So we attach the budget.
It would
we
be
just went
attached
over.
to that.
We'll attach that to this and go from there. Anything, the difference between my operational line expenses and what we consider to be the maximum will be capital reserve automatically, plus the ambulance transport fees and anything additional to that. So again, if we get money in during the year, that doesn't add to my operational budget. My operational budget is set. Once it's set, it's set, and we go from there.
So resolution 04 is saying we're taking the 1%, which is actually 0.96219%. And 05 resolution is, this is the, based on that 1%, this is how much our tax levy is going to be.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
That is the current, this year's 2017, which is 570,000 with that 0.6. We
Yeah.
just break it down.
Yeah.
That's the verbiage that we get from the assessor.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll have the budget online.
Once it's approved. So once it's approved, I do not set up the preliminary budget online. That is not done.
No, I mean, not for the public, but
Yeah. I can send it to you.
would you?
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, I would like to have that because.
Yeah, or I can give you a hard copy of it tonight
That's
before you
fine.
leave.
Yep.
So maybe we should do that instead. So you have that copy as when you leave here and you can start looking at it. Yeah. And then again, this is another discussion that we'll have on November 8th. And if you need further explanation on something, please do that at the November 8th meeting before the budget is finalized. Does anybody have any discussions?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Commissioner, what would you like to do?
No, I'm fine with all this. In the beginning of the meeting, I said there would be no discussion from the public, but I was wrong there. I meant to say there will be no other discussion in the budget. So my two good friends over here, if you have a question, go ahead.
No.
No? How about you? No? Anybody else, anything? Can I have a motion to close the meeting?
Motion closed.
Second.
Adjourn.
Okay.
Okay, we're at 6:25, adjourned.